Hello, thank you for joining us today for the fourth in our series, Instapage Product Tour, Coffee and Conversions. Some quick housekeeping items today as we get ready to begin in the next few minutes. Please, if you have any questions during the webinar, submit them in the Q&A window and we will answer them toward the end. We'll also be sending out a recording and a copy of today's deck via email early next week. And then finally, at the end of today's session, we'll share a survey link via email to gather your feedback and learn how we can improve future webinars, ensuring they provide you with actionable and valuable insights. Now that we've gone over those, I hope everyone has grabbed their cup of coffee and is ready to get started. So on today's agenda for today, we'll be going over new and existing features inside of the platform. We'll also be doing a live in-product demonstration and a quick Q&A. Joining us today, we have Griffin, who is our product marketing manager, Evan, who is our senior product manager, and myself, Michelle Barnes, who is the senior manager of strategic services. So getting started with our feature spotlight, the first item we would like to discuss today is our cookieless external tracking. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Griffin, to go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Michelle, and hey, everyone. Yeah, so with cookieless external tracking, this was a feature that we brought to the platform around earlier last year, really to make it easy to track conversions without third-party cookies. The way we made this possible is by allowing you to set an external page, like a thank you page, as your conversion goal, which counts each visit as a conversion. So all you have to do is add a single workspace script to your destination page and then paste your URL in.
Thanks, Griffin. And so some tips and tricks for that: when you are considering the setup for external conversion tracking, it's important to determine what stage of the funnel your landing page is. If it's lead generation and you have a form on the page that redirects to another page, then external tracking will be good for measuring that conversion. Also, if you're looking to see how top of funnel pages are impacting lower funnel of conversions, then you can place it there as well. If you have various or dynamic redirects in place, you can use a wildcard as a placeholder as part of your external conversions. Next item we would like to review is our URL pass-through. So Griffin, back to you.
Yeah, with URL pass-through, this is really a simple but effective feature that helps you better track your campaigns. Really, all you have to do is toggle it on as shown in the screenshot on the right, and then any existing parameters that are appended to your destination URL, any existing parameters that you have are then appended to your destination URL, letting you keep your campaign information intact.
Definitely. And so to ensure that query parameters on the page do not break, make sure that you're using URL encoded values in place of spaces and special characters. An example of that is a space would be like a %20. And you put that to show spaces on your analytics side. Another useful implementation of passing along parameters is to trigger personalized or dynamic experiences on the following page. For example, if you're pushing a special promotion, you can ensure that your original promotion parameter is included in the URL leading to the next page, and it ensures that the content in the funnel stays relevant not only to the landing page that sent them there, but the step of the original ad. All right, moving right along, the next item we'd like to review is GA4 custom events.
Yeah, this is another useful tracking tool, and it's offered on our Convert plan. To use this feature, you're first going to need to integrate GA4, then connect it to your page, and then again, you just have to toggle it on. And then once on, you can assign GA4 custom events, such as button clicks, directly from your landing page builder without having to navigate through any code.
Awesome. So with that, with GA4, what we've learned is that everything has become an event. With parameters added to provide better granularity beyond the original category, action, and label. So it gives you better control of the data incoming, and you can create a better story by pushing different parameters along with your events. But I do recommend to conduct regular audits of your event tracking just to ensure that you do not have kind of rogue elements that fall outside the purview of your reporting. And make sure that you implement standards on an internal library of the different events that you want to track and how those should be labeled across your company. Next item on the list, we have custom fonts.
Yeah, this is another great Convert feature. And as the name applies, this feature lets you bring your custom fonts to your landing pages. So just like matching your ad and page messaging is crucial, the same applies for your branding. Everything should match. By using custom fonts, they will.
Awesome. And some tips for those. So we do recommend kind of limiting the font variations, and that will help minimize the load times on the page, but also using kind of modern font formats like Waft and Waft 2. They often offer better compression in order to allow faster loading. And then also when you're choosing your fonts, consider accessibility and readability. Sans serif is generally better for digital content, as it's easier for visitors to read without any extra decoration on that text. So following in line with our styles, next we want to discuss default styles.
Yeah, with default styles, really this helps you not have to repeat work you've already done. So in this case, if you didn't have your default colors in, you'd have to select the colors each time or input it each time, where in this case, you set the defaults, then they're always available to you. Similar with your font, you set a default font. Now, every time you go to a page, that's the font to use. You don't have to keep selecting the other font and change back to the one you want to use. Again, it also helps with reducing errors and any fonts being used that you don't want to be used. Another great one is the favicon, where when you upload it, it's going to be used on all your existing and new pages. So really helpful feature as well to be able to set as a default. So don't need to repeat these actions, just set them as your defaults and you're good to go.
Definitely. I think with default styles, speed is the name of the game on that one, to ensure that you're not having to kind of set that up every time you're creating a new page. But for that, we really recommend to build your internal brand style guide into your styles page. So if you have different colors that you've already selected, your different fonts, you can set those up identical to your website. That way you have that brand consistency across your landing pages over to your main website. And then an additional tips and tricks is to make sure you're adding your custom fonts first, to have them available as a default font option inside of there. And then the next item we would go over is our super, sub, and strike options in formatting.
Yeah, with these advanced formatting options give you more control over your text. So whether you want to strike out a price to highlight a deal or add a superscript for a disclaimer, these options make it possible with just a click, no coding needed.
Yeah. And the nice addition of this to the platform is the flexibility of its placement next to the word. So you don't have to worry about moving different items to be that subscript on there. But with that, we want to avoid kind of overuse or excessive use of these, as the formats can clutter your content if you have too many of them. And then make sure that your super and subscript text remains legible with an adequate font size for stronger contrast and readability. All right, so next, a new feature that we released is our collections. So Griffin, can you tell us more about those?
All right, so collections, this one is a really new, exciting feature, and it lets you create personalized pages in seconds. First, I want to take a step back because it's a pretty complex kind of concept, I'd say. And when Evan shows it, I think you'll see the power and it will really click from there. But in this case, I just want to describe what a collection is. And to kind of understand it, I'd say it's a set of landing pages and they use a shared template and content table. And so really, when you pair this with fluid grid blocks, which we recently introduced, now you can create and generate pages without any manual edits, since this layout will auto adjust to the dynamic content pulled in from the table. And two notes here. Right now, it's only with dynamic text that's supported. Dynamic images will be coming soon, and usage limits do apply.
Yeah, that's great information. And as you mentioned, we do recommend using it with fluid grid blocks. And that's just to ensure that the content is responsive for different copy. And if you have different copy links, it allows it to auto adjust based on the inputs. But then a lot of people ask the question, like, what would I use collections for? And it's really great for if you're driving any sort of influencer traffic where you want to have kind of the same template, but you want to just switch out different testimonials based on the influencer that drove traffic to the page. If you have a different affiliates with affiliate IDs, location based, so maybe you have a gym or a location in multiple areas or different target markets, you can easily switch out the names of locations. or even for promotion pages where maybe you offer different promotions throughout the times of the year, but the content for the most part stays the same. So you want to update maybe a promotion code, a headline, showing that promotion as well. So it's really great for areas where the content stays consistent on the page in terms of layout, but the actual copy changes. All right, another new feature that we are introducing is global forms. So Griffin, tell us about that.
Yeah, this last one to cover just one of the more recent new features, which is global forms. Really, it lets you make any form global. And so in this case, we know many of you use the same form across tens to even hundreds of pages. So when that form's global, you just need to make that update once and it applies everywhere it's used.
Yeah. And from a Sierra's perspective, this is really great because when you want to test changes on your form, you can test it on 1 or 2 pages, but then let's say you have a successful change on your form. Now you can push that change out to all of your pages once you kind of prove the concept for it. Or if you have different items that maybe you need to add a field or remove a field across multiple forms, you don't have to go in and edit each one now. You would just have your global form to push that out. Some areas that you can test on forms are field labels, the number of fields, and the orders. So example for fields, there's been studies that show that for each additional field that can decrease your conversion rate up to 20%. So I would recommend like testing shorter form fields on there. But even form layout. So maybe you need to have more fields on there, but you don't want to have too much information up front to like overwhelm the visitor. So you could test something like a single column versus a multi-step form, and easily push that out. Finally, CTA text. One of the biggest motivators is pushing visitors with that final motivating text on the form. So finding the one that works the best and testing that across multiple areas, and you can help increase the conversion rate there. But now, instead of only talking about these, let's see them live in action. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Evan.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Let me get this shared so that we can see it. We should be able to see the screen now.
We can.
Okay, so here we go. We're going to start with external conversions. This is probably the easiest one to find out of anything. If you just come to any landing page and you select it out here, you get your slide out that has all your different settings. One of them is conversion goals. Within conversion goals, you will see all these options. The one on the bottom, external page. If you turn it on, you will see, as Michelle was describing, some sort of target that you can set. And you'll put a URL in here, and that will be the page that will get counted as the conversion. It doesn't have to be the next page you get to, it just has to be one that you know is going to be in that trail. And if you have not set this up before, you come here and you click to copy the script. You only need the script added to your site once, and it will use it across all the pages. That script will see this target coming in, see where you came from, and kind of build that link together. So that's it. You also can put in these wildcards. You'll see description, like this one, domain.com/star/thank you. So if you had IDs or something that went in there or different products, you could still track it the same way. So that's your external conversion goals. Next, let's look at URL pass-through. I'm gonna switch over to the builder. So I'm on a page in the builder. If you look at, say, this image and you go to link setup, you'll see in here I have pass URL parameter enabled. And you can see this link is just instapage.com. Only put this 2 pages you control because you will not get those numbers unless you can look in your own analytics for them. Next, I'm going to show you this link. We're going to look at link setup here. And I also have pass through, but on this one, I have a UTM set. So I want this landing page to have a specific UTM that passes through when you click a button. So I put it here. You see this demo page on the source. Now, all those are set up. Once you do this, make sure you hit save down here. For these settings, the save up here is for the page, but if you haven't saved this, they will not apply. So on the page, we will look, we are on just a regular URL. You can see in the bottom corner, the UTM source says demo page because that's the one I set on that link. This one has nothing, but if I come in here and put like a medium of web, and so I landed on this with that UTM. Now, when I look at this, it shows that on the outgoing link in the bottom corner, that UTM medium web. And on this one, you see that source demo page that we set inside the builder, and you see the medium web. And then the other part of this is, so if I had a different source like demo 2 and I came in and I wanted that to override, then if you look at this top one, it now has overridden that demo source that we came in with the one that we set on the page that brought us here. So you can overwrite. If you don't put it, then it will use the one that's already set. And that will bring all those kind of together. The next thing we want to look at is the GA custom events. So this same link that I was looking at, I also have assigned GA event. You see I gave it a name, demo request. You can give it different parameter names. I did like request true. On one of them I did where I had a parameter A just so I could test it. And then once somebody clicks through on that link, you can come to Google Analytics and I'm on reports and you'll see event count by event name. You can see demo request has gotten 14 links. And because you can set the same event on multiple pages, you can use it to kind of group specific types of actions like this. If I wanted to track demo requests across all my pages, this would kind of show me that. And you can use it in filters and all kinds of things in Google Analytics. So next, let's look at our custom fonts. Fonts you'll find under assets where this ever-growing library kind of exists. Fonts are here, and you have two types of fonts you can link in, Adobe fonts, and then just like linked fonts. For linked fonts, you will need to have that font file hosted somewhere. You can't upload them. We can't host them. It doesn't really work well with the way that we set it up, but it is possible that we could figure a good way to do that in the future. When you add these, click add new. You have a few different parts. Font family is kind of a grouped name. It's multiple fonts that work together. Font URL will be where it's hosted. And then you can set a weight for that font. Let me show you this one that I have set up here, where I have multiple URLs. These are essentially different font weights as separate fonts. They all go under this name. And then I have normal and bold set, but I could put other weights and kind of play with those. And then once you set these up, you can go into your builder. And when you go to select a font under default fonts, these will be there. Noto Serif Dives. So that adds them in there for you to be able to select. The other half of that I was talking about, Adobe fonts. This is the one that sometimes people have a little trouble figuring out. So I'm going to actually go to Adobe fonts and show you. When you come in, this fonts.adobe.com, if you have like some sort of Creative Cloud account, you should have access to this. If you don't, you can register here and they do have free fonts. There's two things that you'll need to see. Browse all, we'll go to that in a minute, and manage fonts for the web project. So web project is a collection of fonts that you've put together on Adobe Fonts. So if you go to, it's loading. There we go. Okay, so when you come in here, you're gonna create a project, and eventually you'll notice that there's two types of projects. One gives you a single line link. One gives you this complex script. The single line link is the only one we can use. These more complex ones load a very complex font. As you can see, I chose this font that is going to have a ton of characters and is not going to load the same way, so the CSS doesn't apply correctly. I have tried playing with these IDs. There is no way to get it to work. But you can put this script in your custom scripts, and you can use that font using custom CSS. You just will not see it in the builder. But for the ones like this, where I have a web font family here set up, my web project is here. I'm going to come to Browse All, going to load the fonts. And essentially on any of these, you go, ooh, I like this font. You can click here, add to web project, and it adds. The warning that Michelle said is very true. You can find very scripty, very designy fonts in here that would be pretty, but hard to read. So use them sparingly and use them in places where content is not the main point. And I think that'll be good. So after you've set all your fonts and you've sent all of them to your project, go back to the project, copy this whole thing, not just the HTML or the HTTP, the whole thing. You come back to fonts and you put the whole thing in, we will parse it out. I think if you put the link in, we probably can too. But once you do that, you save, and those fonts will now be available in the builder as well. So next, now that we're looking at all these, let's see another part where we have styles. And in styles, we do have fonts, and this is specifically about setting which fonts are default when you open Builder before you change anything in there. So you can set the fonts that you use a lot. You can set colors that your brand really likes. And it doesn't have to be your brand colors. It could be things that you just want to limit yourself to using on your landing pages. For these, you'll be able to set 14 of them. You hit plus, you add the hex code for that color, and it will add it for you. We do not have a color picker built into this. Most people who are coming in here know the colors they want. If you do need a color picker, you can go in the builder, use the color picker, and see the hex code there, or there are tons of them out on the web. If you're looking at colors, most of the time, they will give you the hex. And then for the fave icon down here, you can see, you can set one. I have this chatty cat on here, and when you set this, this will be what the default is when you go into one of your files. So I will show you again here. If you come here under search and social, yes, look at that. It's here set, but you can upload a different one and override on this page, just like, I don't know why that opened. Oh, I must click the button. In the builder, here are fonts, but also if we go to select something, say we want to change this button style, we go into this color, you see all those colors on the bottom, but if I want a different color, I could always come in here, steal the hex, right? So that would definitely let me do that. Put that back to white. And then lastly, the, ones here you can override. So the colors are there for suggestions, but you could definitely use something different. And then the fonts here, you could set a different font in here if you wanted for that page. And that kind of covers all the pieces for those. The next thing we want to look at is that super, sub, and strike through. So I did a few examples here. This is not really the place you would normally use it. You can put kind of a footnote little number on the bottom. And so to do this, you just highlight some text and you can come in here and use subscript. You see with the small number in the corner, I put a superscript asterisk on here. Maybe you have some sort of note that's on the bottom of your page. And so you do that with the top one, and then a strike through. You could strike through words if you want to do that as flavor there and use the strike here. But the big use I think a lot of people have for strike through is if you have a pricing page and you want to show the old price, that you have strike through and show them the new price to highlight the savings that they're getting. So these are just a few little style things we've added to the text, and see how they work, what other things come up. Let us know if you find other things you're trying to do to text that may not be working, and we can always see about adding more features in this area. So next, I'm going to show you global forms. We're going to go back to our assets here, and I'm going to show you forms. in the form library, you'll see there is a tag here for global. You can take any form, you can make a copy of it global, and then in the builder, I have a form on the bottom here. You can see when you have a global form, it's labeled global. You can always disconnect it and make it back into a form just on that page. So if you had added a global form on a page and you're like, but I want to add a field just to this page, disconnect it, go in to edit that form, add that field, and now you have a secondary form. And if the other form is changed, it will not change this one anymore. So global is really useful, like they were saying, on pages where you want to have the same form across everything. And you can definitely work through your form library, have the globals, and just attach them wherever. And then lastly, we're going to look at collections. I switched orders because this is, as Griffin said, a very big thing and it's very complicated. But once you understand the concept, you can think about the things that you can do. So I'm in collections, which is its own separate setting from landing pages. They are separate. But right now, in order to create a collection, you start from a landing page. So you'll come to create collection. In here, you can see the pages. They must be published right now. We are working on these limitations and we will remove as many as we can as we go to open up your ability to do more. So you'd select a page, it's published, select the experience, give it a name and hit create. It would take you directly into the builder, but I'm going to show you one that's already built. So we're going to go in here. On this page, you have a default page. This is on this page, your template. You see a little box. This is the one that lets you edit the visual part of the page, that shared template. So we're going to go in and we're going to edit that. And just like anything, you have the same slide out with the settings. As you set them, they will be set for the entire collection. So we're editing design. All right, this warning will come up and give you some information about how to use this. So you're building a template, how you add placeholders. As you see, they are 2 brackets with a name in them. You can put spaces in the name, but whatever you put here is just the name of the field. And I'll show you why that's important in a minute. And then lastly, you want to save this template. And then whenever you're ready to actually use it, you go to edit content. So you can see how I have address, hours, phone. So maybe the spa has multiple locations like Michelle was talking about. And we just want to repeat this information, differently for each page. So also under like a button, you could have a link set up and this is a telephone number. So you click and it dials. So that one is in here. Anywhere where you can put brackets or anywhere you can put text, you can try putting this. It works in a lot of things, including the custom HTML component. The only thing that we found that it doesn't work in is video, and we're working on it. So once you've made your changes, I think it's going to make me change something here. Never put periods in your headlines. So I'm going to save this. And all that does is it saves a version of this template, but now there's a version that's saved and there's a version that's published, just like with landing pages. So when I click edit content, this is actually going to publish this template page. That page is already published from when we created it. You remember we have to use published pages for now, but it just published it with that update. And I have collection pages. So this is the sub page built off of a template. And when you come in here, you'll have a field and you'll have default only in the beginning. So the default URL will be based on the URL from the page that you started from. Come in here and edit that immediately, get it to what you want it to be. And this is going to be the base of these. So you see like that sub URL in here and then kind of the extension name. You can also put more directory structure in here. So if you wanted them to have the same name, but something in the middle, like if you had translated pages, you want like a /en for one, /fr, /es, that kind of thing, you can put that in there and use the same extension on the ends. And those pages will be different because they have different URLs. Next, you have your other fields like I had in there, I had phone number that was in that link, and I had address and hours up in that top bar as well. And these top ones, as being part of the template and part of that default page, are defaults. So you see this, that's kind of a lighter gray. That means I did not put anything on that field in here. In fact, if I add a new collection page, it only has defaults, and I still need to add things, plus update the URL. But we do add kind of a URL in there that's kind of hashed out. You can delete all of this and change it to whatever, right? So this is now my third page. It needs at least 3 characters. I should have known that. So now this page. So then you can go in here and you can update your different ones. You can preview them just like you can landing pages. So I'm gonna preview the default and you will see this west view, right? And then I'm going to get out of this preview, go into the next one. And it's the same page, but it's at a different address, you know, same time, different phone number. And these links are changing as well. And then my last one, where I have all different changes, different time, everything. So think about the ways you can use that. There's a lot you can do. It's really good. And the last part of it is, remember, I changed that template, now have updates to publish. I can actually click here and publish everything at once. So I don't have to go page by page and publish. So this will really kind of speed things up. You also, since I put nothing in that one, don't have to publish all of them. You can say just publish these and update to, yes, it's going to publish them right now. And they are now all live. And that's collections.
Awesome. Thank you, Evan, for walking through that with us. We do have a couple questions that have come in, and I think I'm going to take the first one. In regards to the GA4 tracking, the question was whether or not this will work if they're using or loading in GTM via scripts versus the native integration. And for that one, the answer is if you are not using the native integration, then it will not pass that through. So you will need to set up your GA4 with the native integration in order to pass those parameters versus implementing it through via GTM for that one.
Yep, I can tell you why, and that's my fault. The reason is we need to be able to detect that you're using GA so that we can attach to it and send them. When you send those events, you have to tell it which GA like setup you have. And since it's not in our system, we can't see it. If we could peer into your GTM, then we could do that. And I think like as we go, we'll look at ways that we can do things like that and kind of open that up.
Awesome. Another question that we have, so this is, should the custom font appear in the builder or is it only visible in the preview and live pages?
I believe they should load in the builder. It is possible that some fonts would have trouble loading there. Fonts are finicky, especially when you're using custom ones. There can be reasons that certain ones will load, but it's always better to trust the preview than builder because that is a rendered state of the page.
Thank you for that. Another question, should we maintain the same character count for the dynamic text in collections? I can go ahead and answer this one and you can add on to it. So it really is it depends on how or which blocks you're using on the page. So if you're using fluid grid blocks, then you can use different character counts because fluid grid blocks automatically adjust to the content that is input in there. Whereas if you're not using fluid grid blocks, it uses absolute positioning. So if you have something that's longer and you haven't accounted for that space, it could potentially overlap with other content on the page. So that's why we do recommend using the fluid grid blocks when setting up your collection pages, though it really depends on what items you're changing on the page. Did you have anything to add to that, Evan?
Yeah, you can see here all these blue grids everywhere. This one is built in fluid grid block, so even these are stacked in here. So I'm going to go back to this page real quick. And I'm going to make something absolutely horrible, right? We are going to put this address in here like 4 times, 5 times. So it's not going to look correct for what it should be, but it should push all of it down. So you see it pushed it down, it made more space. It doesn't look great in this layout, but if you had a block like this where you wanted to add different paragraphs, you definitely could. And I set this as a background image, so it should expand with that space.
Thank you for that example. Another question in regard to collections was, can you have different JavaScript snippets per page?
So you should be able to put them in a placeholder. I haven't really tried it. However, I think the thing that would make that easier for you, which is not out yet, is the idea that in here, so right now we have the slide out only for this. And so you can put your scripts in here. And that's for the whole page. Eventually, we will have it where you can set them for each of these. And you can set the rest of those settings. But in your default, if you're editing that, because that's a text area on here that renders on the page, it might work. I would say you could always try it. I'm definitely going to try it later and see what I can do. And if not, then add it into our queue.
Yeah. Yeah, well, why don't we get back to you after we've kind of tested it internally, but essentially right now, any area that you have text, you should be able to like add the brackets. And so you may not be able to add it specifically in this space, but let's say inside your JavaScript, you added your double brackets and you said script as your like your label, then in the table, you could essentially or should be able to insert the script in the table and add it to the page. But again, let us test it and then we can get back to you.
Yeah, and ideally there, we would even be able to just put like a single piece in that script. So you would have your script and maybe you're changing like an ID or a URL or something. That would probably be the use case that you'd be looking at. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely try this.
Awesome. One more question. When do you expect to have dynamic images in collections?
So I've seen them. They're coming. We have a little bit left on it to get first so that we can test it internally, and then we will have it out to users. We're expecting it the end of next month, but I would say like just because it's a very important part, we want to get it right. So expect it in the next few months.
Awesome, thank you. And wait just one moment if any other questions. I do not see any coming in. So I'm going to take back the screen, Evan. Let's see. So, we went over a lot of features here today, but we do want to remind you that we do have early access to features available. If you're interested in providing feedback, we are always open to your feedback to help improve the product and see what marketers like you are looking for out of the platform. So you can request early access by visiting this link, bit.ly/IP-early-access, or when this deck is sent out, you can simply click this and access it there. But I just want to also remind you that we have another webinar coming up. We will not be going over features this time, but we will be reviewing Convert Smarter 5 landing page tactics to test today. Where I would encourage you, we're offering a free CRO audit of your landing pages, and we can have it featured in our upcoming webinar. If you're interested in having that free CRO audit, please email me directly at Michelle with 1L at instapage.com, and that will be on July 24th. I do see one more question two more questions come in, sorry, just now. So one question was, can we set up drop down in the form submission? think that one's for you, Evan.
Yeah, so I guess I need some more clarity on it. Are we asking if we can put drop downs in a form, or where in the submission would we put them?
Are you looking to just set up drop down fields? If you can go ahead and submit that as another question, we can add clarity to that. And as you do that, we had one other question come in. Do you recommend adding conversion tracking scripts via the scripts and privacy function or directly on the page via the HTML and Java tools?
I don't know that there's really a preference. I usually deal with settings for the page on the outside just so that I think of them in that way. Putting things on the page, the only things I usually put in there are ones that specifically interact with something else on the page. So if I was building like custom HTML and then I needed a script to modify something on it, that's kind of part of the page itself. And then the settings being part of the header, that kind of thing, are on the outside.
Yeah.
But either one should work.
Okay, perfect. All right, and some clarity around the drop down in the form setup for select particular selection. What's the query about instead of type user can select their category? Let me connect with you offline so we can get better clarity around your question, and then we can answer that to you directly. All right. I think that was all the questions for today. And again, I'll follow up on those other two items that we discussed offline. But if any other questions do come up, please feel free to reach out and we'd be more than happy to answer those. Also, your CSMs are a great resource in helping answer some of these questions. So just a reminder that they are there whenever you do need help inside the platform as well. So thank you again, everyone, for joining and have a wonderful day.